Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Tony, and if you follow me you know that we are well and truly deep into the build of this incredible kit from Armortek, this huge 1:6 scale Jagdpanther G2 tank destroyer from the Armortek series, and it is incredible. And I know I've said it many times, but I'm absolutely loving the build of this, and I really hope that you're enjoying the journey as well. And a lot of you who communicate with me and correspond with me suggest that you are, so thank you for doing that. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, because we've still got a lot of work to do on this incredible beast. In the last session I installed the pannier panels, and then I got everything tight and aligned, and I'm really pleased with how that's now set. And the only other thing I've done since last saw you was I went ahead and I did all the silicone work on the inside of the hull, which inevitably you'll see. I didn't film that, but inevitably you'll see that when I'm doing some filming close up. I also put one of the equipment bins on because they're quite tricky to put on, but I'm going to show you my way of doing those. And in today's session it's all about those little jobs that need to be just addressed and just mopped up at this stage of the build, including I'm going to do some filling on here, because inevitably you're always going to get some filling required on here. Then once I've got, because there's a bit of a recess and a dip if you like, so I'm going to fill that with 2-part filler. I'm going to go around and do some mock welding on here, both sides, on the inside here, around the glacier plate. So there's a lot of mock welding to do, which we'll do in today's session. And as well as that, there's other bits that I haven't put onto the tank yet, and I'll put those on today. And then the wheel hubs. Now, massive thank you to Russ, one of my long following subs, and a couple of others as well that suggested it, but Russ was the first one out of the traps. Why don't you use magnets to hold on the wheel hubs? And I've tried those, so I went ahead and got some 6mm by 2mm magnets, and I've 2-part glued them into the hubs and in the little wheel hubs, and they work brilliantly. So they just now magnetized straight on, and I'll show you. I've left 6 to do, so I'll do those in real time and we'll put them to one side. But there are, what a brilliant idea, just a brilliant idea. So thanks Russ for that, a massive thanks to you, mate. And we'll crack on and we'll do all these little jobs that need to be done today, as well as some of the structural elements ahead of doing the rear deck. And once I've got all of that done, then we can move on nicely on to the final part of the rear deck. Now it's going to be a long session today. It's going to be quite bitty, but I think it's important. You can always fast forward, of course, if you're getting a little bit bored. But I think it's important to show you all these little jobs that need to be done on the main tank ahead of doing anything else. So in the now time-honoured tradition, I will reposition the camera and we'll get stuck right in. So the first job I'm going to do now is to glue these magnets into the little wheel hubs themselves. These are all the ones that I've done. I've already put a couple on. They work so well. Right. So I've got, this is just a top of an old Pringle tube. In the UK we have Pringles. I don't know what they're called in America, but these are always very useful, so I never throw things like that away because they're always very handy. Just gonna make sure I get all the air out of the tubes. Now we can just squirt an equal amount, draw the air back in, put the cap on, wipe excess on trousers. Now I'm going to mix this up. Don't be doing too much. Doesn't take a huge amount of glue to now. This goes off reasonably quickly, so you want to be fairly rapid with this. I'm just going to put a little dab of that in the base of that. Peel off one of these beautiful 6mm by 2mm magnets. And to just pop that on the side. Then I've got an aluminium tool here, because obviously you don't want steel because it will just stick to the magnet, and that allows me to position the magnet dead center of that. Pop that to one side and we go again. I'm doing this now because this takes a little bit of time to go off. So while the glue's setting on this, I can carry on doing some other jobs on the hull. And again, I just love the fact that you guys interact with me and point out the error of my ways, and really good suggestions. And all the way through since I've been doing my channel, I really encourage people to come forward and make these suggestions, because there's some guys out there that know a lot more about this sort of thing than I do, and it's all about learning. And so please don't ever feel shy about making suggestions to me. I always try and take on board all of your suggestions, and in fact the guys that pointed out that I put the tensioners on, the belt tensioners on the upside down, you know, that's brilliant, and I really do appreciate the fact that you've pointed that out, because you do sometimes, you know, you get carried away when you're doing it, and it's quite easy to sort of misunderstand some of the instructions. So I'm very grateful for all the comments I get, all these incredible suggestions. I've learned so much from the community that I've built on my channel, and that's how I see it. I really do feel like it's a community. So that's that. One more, and when you finish with this, just throw it away. It's been upcycled or recycled to very good use. So anything like that, jar tops, plastic tops like that off of some of your shopping, I do tend to try and find a use for them. That's brilliant. Now they're all done, I can let those set, and we can go on to the next job. Right, so the next job is I'm going to use a 2-part epoxy putty, and for this you should be wearing vinyl gloves or protective gloves. Vinyl gloves I find the best. I've got to go for double XL gloves because my old sausage fingers. I've already unpacked this, it's brand new, so I'm going to open up as carefully as possible because I'm always conscious of, you know, this going off. Let's just cut. I'm going to cut through equal amount. Break that. Squeeze that out. This is always the tricky bit. This is super sticky, this stuff. And then the bit of plastic I'm going to use to put that over and protect that. Same deal here. Do that in a moment. Then we have to get these and basically knead these together, mix them together, so you get like a consistent light grey finish. Now once this is kind of bonded together or mixed together, you get a good 10 minutes of working time with it before it starts to harden. I'm only using this in the 2 holes on the side of the panels. And just keep working it, and it will eventually kind of become this consistent sort of light grey sort of colour. I've probably taken off a bit too much, but we'll see how we get on. You can see there it's starting to turn to that consistent light grey colour. And this is a bit of perspex, again bits of old plastic and things I like to keep in my workshop because they're really good for this kind of thing. Get in there. Right, I think we're pretty much there or thereabouts. So now I'm going to do is reposition the camera. Sorry, I'm jogging the camera around a bit. And we're going to use a couple of tools, a plastic spreader and a metal one. And then once that goes off, I'll leave it to go really hard. We'll crack on doing other jobs, and then we can come back and sand it down to get it nice and flat. So let's reposition the camera and then take it from there. Right, okay, so just going to use my hands initially just to force that into position like that. Then I'm going to need my spray bottle of water. Don't worry about the excess falling on the floor. Just put a bit more of that on. Turns out I'll probably have about the right amount. Because this would normally, on the actual real tank, this would be welded. So once I've got this to a consistency and finish that I like, I'll go around with a bit of mock welding. I want this to be slightly proud. The water just stops it from sticking to it. I quite like that actually. I don't think I'm going to use sandpaper on this. I quite like that sort of, because it's all been welded and cast steel, and I'm quite happy with that. Hope you can see that. Let me zoom that in and move the camera. Oh, my camera work is shocking. I'll be getting the Oscars for that. So I'm just, then what we're going to do, we're going to dress some welding around this, and that will look amazing when it's finished. I'm just going to do the other side now. Right. Same deal here. Let's get this putty in and pressed in as hard as possible. Spray a bit of water on that. Again, the water just stops you from sticking to it. Now, just going to use this to shave off the excess. And then water. That just allows me to smooth that over. That is perfect. God, these things keep catching you. Yeah, it's just spiteful. So that's that. Now that putty's going to take a good half an hour or so to start hardening properly, and then maybe an hour or so before I can start working with it. But the idea is that I'll go around here with a bit of mock welding. Talking about mock welding, we might as well start looking at doing the front, and then by the time we've done the front and the back, I'm going to do the mock weld. I'm going to do the welding seam on the back line here before I put the equipment bin on, because it's quite tight. I will be able to get to it, but it is still quite tight. So I'm going to do the welding on the back of this, do the welding on the front. By the time I've done all that, I'd like to think that these are dry and cured and ready to go. So let's crack on, and we'll do the next step. Right, so we're on to the mock welding now, and I'm going to use this 2-part milliput, which is pretty much the standard for modelers like myself. I normally go for the white one, but I couldn't get hold of that, so I'm using the grey and the yellow, I think it turns out. I think it ends up being the yellow colour. And I've invested, again, some advice from some of my followers, in one of these bad boys. So this is something I'm going to mix the 2-part milliput up, and then put it into this little tube, and then hopefully I'll be able to wind this through and get a consistent line along here. I've cleaned up this pad here on my work pad. I'm going to spray a bit of water on it when I get close to it so it doesn't stick. but I used to sort of roll it out and try and get a consistent sort of line. So I'm happy to do that, but I'm really keen to use this tool. So again, another great suggestion by my subbies, and much appreciated. So same deal again, wearing gloves. Now I'm going to, obviously the length of this tube, I want about sort of half of that in there. So let's go through and cut. Let's see if I can just trim the opening of that, because I don't, this stuff is not cheap. No, definitely going to have to just cut through it and then seal up the end as I've done before. So let's go for around about that much. And then split that. Down the middle. Let's get that out. Tricky jobs. Now I will tape that up before I store it. And it's the same deal as before. So I'll just cover that up as a temporary. Pop that over there and just put a protective glove around that. And same deal, we just need to knead this together, mix it all in. Again, at this point you can fast forward or pause and go and make yourself a cup of tea. Again, I don't know whether I'm doing the right thing filming every step of this, but I think I am. Please let me know in the comments if you think I'm doing the right thing, and if you find this sort of thing informative. It's certainly, this is actually one of my favourite parts of the build, doing the mock welding, because it begins to start putting your personality on to it, and it really, when it's all painted, it just looks so good. I remember on the Hetzer there was so much welding to be done, so it'd be the same thing on here when the roof goes on, but you don't. With the roof, I never bolt that into position. I just put a couple of fixings in just to stop it from falling off, because I like the idea of being able to get to all the electronics with relative ease. Also, I don't fill all the fixings. I've been asked that many times. I don't fill the fixings, and the reason I don't fill all the fixings is that you never know if you ever need to get to remove a panel later on in the build, and I don't want to be in a position where I have to remove the panel and I can't actually find where the fixings are. And also, when it's all painted, you don't really notice the fixings. You really don't, especially when the camo scheme's on and you've got everything sort of, all the accessories on it and everything else. I've never really noticed the fixings. I'm not doing Zimmermet. I don't do that on my kits for the same reason. I like to see the metal. So that's about ready. Right, first time for everything, and here we go. So I've got, on the end of this, I've got the smallest hole that came with the kit. It's a 2mm hole. So I'm going to take that off for now. I'm going to unwind this, and I'm going to roll this out. Narrow enough to go down that tube. I think that's about right. Which end have I got? Which end is in? Right. I think push it down that end. What I don't want is an airlock in it. There we go, this end as well. Right, so now I'm going to push that, use that to push that through. You can feel there's an airlock in it. Oh, I can hear the air. That is tough. I want that to go all the way to the end. See what I'll do now. Wind that on. Now, wind that down so that I can definitely feels like there's an airlock in there, which doesn't surprise me. There we go. Just start seeing it to come out. Now, I'm hoping that can just go on there, and then we'll wind that on the end. Now, oh, there you go. Just see it coming out the end. Perfect. Right. So, I'm going to just spray my... I've just cleaned this off a little bit because I want the water to act as a sort of a non-stick barrier, if you like. And now I'm just going to wind that out. That works really well, actually. So thanks again to you guys for recommending this. I think this could be a very useful tool to be used in Tony's workshop. Obviously, I think that'll do for now. So that's the first piece. So I'll reposition the camera and then we'll start welding. And just to let you know, I've got these are clay modelling tools, which I tend to use for giving you that sort of welding effect. I don't know which one I'm going to use yet. I'm going to wait until I've got this on and then I'll start working out which is the best tool. So let me reposition the camera and we'll get cracking. Right, okay. So we've got the first line of weld. And now what I want it to do is I want it to follow this profile around here. Now I'm going to do some of this in real time and then I'll probably go off and do the rest off camera. Or no, actually no, I'll speed it all up. That's what I'll do. I'll get Ben to do his magic and speed it all up. So at the moment I'm just sort of loosely positioning the weld line to follow the profile on the front and the back, and then using one or two of my clay modelling tools I'll be able to get it into its final position and then do its sort of its weld, mimic weld detail, if you like. So that's just in its rough position. God, these things are a nightmare. Okay, now let's have a look and see. Let's try this one to start with. So I'm going to just start pressing that in. Just little bit breaks, don't worry. It will sort of, we can use the tool to knit that together again. It's not a problem. And this will, as we pat it down into position, it will extend. What we're trying to do is get this sort of arc of the detail. And bear in mind that when these are welded, they're all done by hand in the real world. It's all done by hand, so it was never precision as such. It was good, but it wasn't precision. So don't get too hung up on that. And I like the inconsistency of the weld, so in some parts it's a little bit thicker than it should be, a little bit thinner than another part. It's all part and parcel of the look and feel of it, I think. And once I've got this initially tapped into position, I will then go and then redress it. I think what I'll probably do is just lift all that up and then just leave that there loose for me to come back to if you like. This is a very time consuming but very therapeutic process. Look, if you're doing this and you mess it up, it's not a disaster. You can go back, you can take it off, clean up the surface and go again. And slowly but surely it really starts to take shape. As I said, this is the first opportunity you're going to have of really starting to put a bit of personality, your own personality into this. So don't get too nervous about it. Be free. And bear in mind as well, it's all got to be painted. But trust me, when it's painted, it just looks so good. You drifted off to sleep yet? This is just, I guess this is not really a good spectator thing, but I wanted to show you. I mean, I have done quite a lot of welding videos in the past, but if you're new to my channel, just wanted to show you how we do this. Just trying to get that sort of arched of the weld. I'll do this strip and then the rest of it I'll film, but we'll get it sped up so it's not so tedious and you can listen to a bit of techno. First and foremost, I just want to get it around the profile. Really does sort of begin to look real. So this length I extracted from the tube. I wasn't happy with the diameter of it, so I just rolled it out by hand. So I just sprayed a bit of water on it and rolled it out a little bit more by hand. So I mean, if you've got a smaller hole diameter, even better. But if you find that the weld size is just too big, it looks wrong, take it on your gut feel that it is and just come back and just roll it out a little bit thinner, or just do it by hand like I used to. So that is there. So I'm just going to carry on now, just getting that sort of weld. So that's it round its all the profile I want it to go on. Now I'm going to carry on, just trim that bit off there. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. Now I'm just going to go around and start tidying this up a bit. Just so it starts to feel better. But now it's pressed into position, it's not going to go anywhere, so you've got a bit of time to work with this. As I said, really therapeutic this. I'm glad I rolled it out a bit more, so I think the diameter would have been just too much. Yeah, it's really starting to look good. Well, I think so. Again, this is building these models becomes very personal to the builder, and all these little things that you're doing now add to the final look of your kit and to the ultimate satisfaction of the build when it's complete. Trim that off, because that, when the roof sits on that, we don't want that binding there. Hopefully that's come across all right. Can you see that? Hopefully you can. Right, so I'm going to carry on doing this, and I'll probably ask Ben to speed it all up. So as far as all the welding for today is, I'm done with that at this stage. There will be more when we come to do this top deck and everything else, but this is as far as I need to go today. Next job is to get this remaining equipment box on, and I don't know if you can see, but I've gone ahead and a couple of days ago I decided to, when I test fitted this was just a nightmare, so I've decided to put a fixing in here. And the reason why that is that there's a hole down here that I'm going to pass that through, and now I'm able to get a nut on the end of it. Now obviously with Armortek they tell you to do it the opposite way around. They tell you to put the fixings through the hole and put the nuts on the inside, which is fine, and I will do that. But for now, and just to get this on, I just want to make sure I can get a bit of thread locker on the end of that. It's just a lot easier because I don't know how you can physically get your hands in there. I'm sure you can, but I certainly found it a challenge. I can see a little bit of the weld is actually binding with that, so I'm going to have to cut that out. Try that again. That's it. And now I can hopefully just reach inside there and wind a nut on. So that nut's there. So I can now so that's on there. Now that just makes my life a lot easier as far as getting the fixings through. So let's try that now. Need some thread locker. Now we can go put one of the fixings through here, and then hopefully just, oh, here we go. I think it's time for the forceps. Tighten that up. And I can get another one in down the bottom. Thread locker. It's gone in lovely. And that's that one. There's one more which has got to be put in this side, but I'll do that in a moment. So that was that. That's how I've got around putting these equipment bins on. I'll just do the last fixing, and then we'll come on to the next step. Okay, next step, this rear deck support. Now this is going to be installed so that the angle here is pointing towards the rear of the tank. Now this being top heavy wants to do that, so it's going to be awkward for you to hold this in place while you fix it. So what I tend to do is use a little clamp like this. You're not clamping onto anything. All you're doing is just using the size of the clamp to hold that upright. Then we can sort of position it how we want it. Now these button fixings come up from underneath. There it is. And we're going to spin a nut on. temptation is to push them through from the top and then put the nut on the bottom, but I guess the danger of that is if the track hits the nut, it could be a problem, whereas if it's a button fixing, it should just ride over that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to see if we can get that a little bit tighter. I'm not going to tighten them up completely. Now I can move this clamp out of the way. These things are a nightmare, absolute nightmare. In hindsight, I wish I hadn't put them on yet because I keep catching myself on them. Anyway, minor issue. So while I'm this side, I'll do exactly the same. I'm not going to tighten them up completely. I am putting thread locker on these. I'll go around and do the other two now. Do them this side. Just need another couple of nuts. Slowly but surely, it's all starting to come together. I can see that the hole is quite clear, so I'm quite happy to tighten that up now. There's a couple of brackets that we need to put on the side here as well, and then we can put the track holders in place. If you remember the ones we couldn't put on when we were doing the pannier panels. Wrong tool. That's that. Let's cut that round now. Just tighten these up. So the next things to go on are the side supports. These are held in place with 16mm countersunk fixings. When you unpack these at early doors, well, I do, I can never tell what these parts are. It's only until you get to this stage it all becomes obvious. So I will check, but that would suggest this sits here as the shelf to support the rear deck, but I'm going to just double check that on the instructions, and good job I did, because no, that is not the case. It's the other way round. Right, so it's this way. There you go, it's that way. So again, I might get a clamp involved in this. Let's see how we get on. We'll see how we get on. Just impaling myself on the skirting holders. Just hold that while I wind that in. Move that up. just a nut. I'll do exactly the same the other side. I just need to get a couple of nuts. Couple of fixings. Thread locker. Good job I double checked those instructions, eh? I'm sure you can see this, can you? Yeah. I was when I was doing the welding, it's really, we're in a bit of a heat wave here in the UK, which is an unusual thing to say for us, but we are. And I found that the milliput was going off very, very quick, so I was able to just sort of douse it a bit in water. So when I was rolling it out a bit thinner. What is going on there? It helped with the curing process. Once we've got these on, we then go back and revisit the track holders. So they're on. So we're just retracing some of the early steps because of the sequence that I've decided to do with this. But it really starting to come to shape, I think. So that's those. Now we can go and get the track holders. So they're the track holders. Go on now. As before, I don't think there's a wrong way and a right way to put these on, or an upside down kind of thing. Let's pop all of these there. These go on with M3 12mm button fixings through that hole. And you can see now, I don't know if you can see in the camera, but the difficulty is that these couldn't have gone on before we put these side brackets on. Right, so let's get some thread locker on that. That was a bit tricky. It's in. And the last one of those. Well, that's a little bit awkward with everything else going on. Forceps required, I think. Absolutely brilliant tool. Again, I know I've said it, but another great suggestion by one of my subbies. I'll end up stabbing myself completely with these things. That's that. And do the other side. Sorry, I thought I was missing a fixing, but I wasn't. I'll do this end first. The easier, the less awkward one, should we say? Tool on, nut at the back. All these little jobs we're having to go back to kind of makes sense to me to do them in the order that we're doing them in. Forceps operation. And I think these track links that go on here are just held on by split pins, pretty sure. Right, so that's that. I'm just going to do some head scratching and work out what the next step is. Right, so there really isn't a lot more left to do in today's session, other than we've got this little viewing port here, which is a 3D printed plastic part, which Armortek send us. And you should find that in the same bag as the instructions. Just pop that into place. And what it does is asks us to Loctite glue that in. And I've just masked that out so that when I come to paint it I can peel it off. And what I've got is I've got a bit of reflective chrome paint on that, so it should give you the effect of a kind of a glass panel, if you like. So that's that. And then now all that's left to do today is to pop on the remaining hubcaps with the magnets. The glue's all fully cured. And look at that. Unbelievably simple but wonderful solution. Russ, you're an absolute gentleman, thank you. And for all everybody else that suggested it as well, but look at that. I mean, it remains to be seen if I'm driving this and putting it through its paces, I may lose one, so I'll always will check. I do tend to check over the tank anyway. So that's it, I think, as far as today's concerned. I'm not going to be able to do any more. But look at where we are. Look at the threshold we've achieved. We are now at the point where we can move forward with the rest of the build. I know I had to revisit some of these things, and the reason for that was because you think about it, the equipment bins can't go on until all of this is set and aligned and screwed up tightly. Then you can put the equipment bins on. You can't put the track holders on until you've got these mounts on, and so on. And of course the little bits and pieces, you know, the wheel hubs and everything in, which I'm just blown away by that. What an amazing idea, and thanks again to all of you who suggested that. So now I'm really looking forward to building up the rear deck, this rear entry panel here, the roof, a lot more welding to do. And then once that's all done, we'll get into doing all the accessories for it, get those painted up. Then of course we can get the whole thing painted, the camo scheme done. Tracks will go on, markings to go on, do a bit of weathering, and then of course all the electronics to be done. So we've still got quite a lot of work to do on this incredible kit. And as I said before, you know, Armortek, you have absolutely smashed it out of the park. Love this kit. There's nothing wrong with this kit whatsoever. It's an absolute joy and a privilege to build. And I know one or two of you are building this as well, and I really hope that these videos are helping you. And if you've enjoyed today's video, please give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments. And of course, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm glad you found me, and please subscribe, because I have got a lot more work to do on this, and I've got other projects in the pipeline which I will tell you about in the near future. But I'll sign off today by saying thanks again for all your amazing support. Please keep it coming. I'm Tony. I absolutely love building these kits, and I really love you guys coming on the journey with me. I look forward to seeing you in my next session. See you soon.